My name is Jody. If you haven't watched one of these videos before, this is Cooking or Something Like It. And we have Miles on camera too over here. He's going to get some close-ups. So we're going to do an entree tonight, something a little more classical. This is going to be a meatloaf, and we're going to do it with 3 different types of ground meat. I have ground beef, I have ground veal, and this is pork that I just ground in my meat grinder here. You can buy ground pork, but pork chops were on special at the grocery store, and I just ran them to the meat grinder. If you don't have one of these, this is a mixer, and it has a meat grinder attachment. Works really nice for this. So, what else do I have? Breadcrumbs. I have 1 egg. I have some ground mustard, garlic powder, dried parsley, pepper, salt, brown sugar, and 1 onion, medium small onion chopped up. I also have Worcestershire sauce, milk, vinegar, ketchup. Alright, we're going to do this one in a couple parts here because being a meatloaf it's going to have to bake, so we're going to put everything together, show you how to do that. We're going to take a break for a minute, let the meatloaf cook. We're going to come back and I'm going to do a gravy for it using the drippings from the meatloaf pan, and then we'll plate it up and show you how to do it. So, let's get started. Alright, in a bowl here, I take my onion, I'm going to take the 3 meats. Now, you can use whatever meat you want. If you don't have ground veal, or you don't like ground veal, or ground pork, or beef, you can use 1, 2, or all 3 of these. The 3 combined is going to give it a real nice flavor, so we're going to go with all 3. I just happen to have these, so don't feel like you have to do it with all 3, but it will give it a real nice flavor with the 3 different kinds of meat. So, 3 in there. We've got about a cup of breadcrumbs. We've got 1 egg. This is about a tablespoon of garlic powder. About half a tablespoon, 3/4 of a tablespoon ground mustard. Dried parsley. About a teaspoon of pepper. About half a teaspoon of salt. And the brown sugar we'll put over there. So let me just get these out of the way here. Now, you're going to get a little messy doing this one. If you ever made meatloaf, this is not a surprise. So we're going to take all this and we're going to mix it together. And you're going to have to get in there with your hands, and it's going to make a mess. So, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty when you're doing stuff like this. It's where you make good stuff. You want to make sure it's blended, it's mixed really thoroughly, because you don't want to take a bite of a meatloaf later on and get a whole mouthful of garlic powder, salt. You get the idea. While I'm doing this, we have several ways you can watch our videos. We have our Facebook page, Cooking or Something Like It. We also have a web page, cookingorsomethinglikeit.com, where we have all our videos, a blog, some pictures, my incredibly witty banter. That's where we post the recipes, and all of our old videos are archived there. We also have a YouTube channel, and you can find the link for that on the web page. And we have Twitter and Instagram, which are also listed on the web page, but you can just search for Cooking or Something Like It, and those should pop up. Alright, we've got this mixed, and you can see, kind of got a big ball of meat here. Alright, not quite together yet, I can still see some of the spices standing out, so, like I said, don't be afraid to really get in there, mix this all together. Now, one thing, and before I get comments, yes, I do have an apron on. So, about a half a cup of milk. This is going to keep it nice and moist. About 1/4 cup of ketchup. And Worcestershire sauce. About a tablespoon, give or take. If you've watched these before, you know I don't measure anything. But I will put measurements on the recipe on the webpage, so. Alright. Now this is going to be a little bit sloppy because of all those liquids. That's what the breadcrumbs are for, to soak all that stuff up, alright? That's a lovely sound, isn't it? Alright. So, let that sit for just a second. So while that's sitting, we're going to make the topping. So I have another bowl here. This is about a half a cup of brown sugar. We're going to take some vinegar. This is malt vinegar. You can use red wine vinegar, regular vinegar, apple cider vinegar, whatever you like. Put some of that in. And about a half, 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. We're going to mix this together. The brown sugar has chunks in it. The vinegar should break them up. If it doesn't right away, just let it sit for a second, and the moisture will certainly take care of that. So, just a simple topping. It looks like ketchup. It's got a little extra vinegar and some sweetness with the brown sugar. All right. So, this is my meatloaf pan. This is extremely handy because it's 2 parts, and this has holes in the bottom so the grease can drain out into here. Not necessary. If you don't have one of these, you can use any loaf pan. You can even use a 9x13 glass dish. Pretty much just something to put it in to cook, right? So we're going to take this. We're going to press this in there. All right. Now remember, if it looks like it's a little big, it's going to shrink quite a bit, okay? The fat in the pork and the beef will cook out, and this is going to shrink. You'll see when we take this out, it's going to be quite a bit smaller than it looks right here. Actually, you can't see it. There you go. All right. So, I realize this is protruding up out of the pan. Don't worry about that. Like I said, it's not a big deal. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. This is going to cook for a while, as there's quite a bit of mass there. So you're going to have to let this cook for a while. You don't want to cook it too hot because you'll burn the top. So 350 is a good temp for that. And you're going to take our sauce. We're going to go right across the top of it and spread it on there. Now you want to take about half the sauce to start with, because about halfway through cooking, we're going to do this again. This is going to caramelize. The sugar in there is going to caramelize nicely. But it will, you know, you want to add some later on to really get that flavor. Alright? So there you go. We got about half of that left. We're going to pop this in the oven. We're going to set a timer for 45 minutes. And we're going to let this cook. And we're going to take a break right now because you don't want to stand here and watch me watch this cook. So we'll be back in a little bit and we'll show you how to finish this off. We're about halfway through cooking the meatloaf. You can see in the pan here. Now, I like to pour some of the grease off about halfway through, so I'm going to do that now. It just keeps it a little neater. Okay. You don't have to do that. And if you have a different style pan, sometimes it's a little harder. You can use a turkey baster to do it if you need to. So this is the rest of that topping that we made. So now that we're about halfway done, we're going to put the rest of this on. Alright. So there's that. So whatever you have left of this, you can go ahead and put it on at this point. Now, we're going to pop this back in the oven to let it finish. Okay. Now, while that's going, I'm going to make a side here that we're going to serve with this. So, while we were away, I cut up some potatoes and boiled them. Now, I leave the skin on. You don't have to leave the skin on. You can take the skin off. I find that it adds a little bit of flavor, a little bit of color, and there's a lot of nutrients in the skin of the potato too. So drain those. To this, I'm going to add where's my butter here? Butter. Now this is subjective. I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of butter in, give or take. do it to taste, however you like it. I've got some salt here. This is about a teaspoon of salt. I can use all of it. I've got some pepper. Parmesan cheese. This is real shredded Parmesan. You can use the more finely ground stuff. It's not all entirely real Parmesan, so I would encourage you to buy real Parmesan cheese. So we're just going to give that a couple pinches. This is milk. Add that in. And don't forget sour cream. Sour cream is going to make the potatoes much creamier. Sorry, lame. But, I'm going to put in half a cup of sour cream. Again, this is something you can do to taste. I have to say, these squeeze bags of sour cream are awesome. So, don't forget that your pan is hot. Alright? We're going to mash this together. Yes, it's splashing. I'm aware. If you've watched any of these videos, you know that I will make a mess every time. Now we're going to let this just kind of... there we go. We're going to let this sit. Stir up this a little bit here to get this good and mixed through. These will firm up a little bit as they sit. Okay, so our potatoes are going. Now, I've poured off maybe a quarter cup of the grease. You want to save this, and I'm going to show you why when we pull the meatloaf out. So we'll be back in a few minutes to finish this off. Meatloaf is done. I've taken it out of the pan, and I'm letting it rest on this plate here. It should come out of the pan fairly easy for you. The grease in the meat really kind of greases the pan, so you should be able to take a spatula or even a couple forks and take it right out. You want to let it rest for a little while before you serve it. As with any meat, just let it kind of sit there. It'll continue to cook a little bit while you're doing this. So while we're letting that rest, we're going to make the gravy. So I have here the drippings from the meatloaf. Okay, put these in the saucepan. I have some water. I'm going to take a beef bouillon cube and put it in the water. This is just for a little extra flavor. To the water, and if you've seen me do this before, you'll understand. Cornstarch is a thickening agent. So when you want to thicken a gravy, you want to use cornstarch. If you add the cornstarch directly to the hot gravy, it'll clump up and you'll get clumpy gravy. Nobody likes clumpy gravy. So if you mix it into water first, we'll use probably about 2 tablespoons or so here. It dissolves in the water and you don't get any clumps. You get this nice homogeneous, I like that big word. Okay. I also have here a little bit of brown sugar. We use brown sugar in the covering, so it should go very well. I'm just going to put this right in here. And I don't know if you can see that, but that was a little clumpy. The water in there will soften that up. And I've turned the heat on the grease over here, okay? I'm going to let that start to come up. Now, that bouillon cube that I put in here, if you wanted to, you could microwave that or heat it up in a saucepan to dissolve it, but we're going to put it onto a hot stove, so it shouldn't make any difference. It'll break right up in there. So we'll let this come up to temp a little bit here. And we're going to add this directly into those drippings. Not droppings, sorry. Don't add anything to droppings. Okay. We're going to turn the heat up and let this come up to temp. Essentially what you're doing here is you're just making a sauce with the drippings from the meatloaf. Now, we put some Worcestershire into the meatloaf itself, so I'm going to put a little bit in the gravy, just give it a little bit of extra kick. Worcestershire has that real nice umami flavor, that savory flavor. Now, we've talked about this on previous videos. When this comes up to a boil, the cornstarch in there will thicken that sauce. So, while that's coming up, we're going to plate this. So I have a plate. Here's the mashed potatoes that we did earlier. Put them in the middle like that. I just don't want this to overheat on me too quickly here. We're going to take a knife. We're going to cut a piece off the end of this. Oh, we'll cut another one because that one kind of fell apart. All right. Set this over here. I'm going to take a second fork. We're going to try and do this in one piece. All right. Put the meatloaf just like that. Sauce is almost done. Now, if you don't like gravy, you don't have to use the gravy. I think it'll make a real nice topping for this. You should finish this out with a nice, keep it nice and moist. Like that. I got moistened twice on this one. Alright, just letting that come up. So one more time while we're just letting that cook, check out our Facebook page, check out our YouTube page. If you like the videos and you get something out of them, please share them with your friends. It does help us out, give us a little encouragement to continue doing these. We love doing them, but it's nice to know that you like watching them too. Ask your friends to like the page also, that helps us. YouTube views obviously are great too, so share the YouTube page if you like them, and we'll keep doing these for you if we get them. Oh, another thing, on the Facebook page, if I post a recipe and you have a question, please ask. We'll be happy to respond to you. There's also email addresses you can find on our website, which is cookingorsomethingLikeIt.com. If you have a dish that you'd like me to make, I'll give it a shot. So send me an email or post it on the page, and I'll be happy to give it a try. If nothing else, it might be humorous to watch me butcher something, but okay. So that came up to temp. This thickened. I'm going to remember to use my oven mitt. You can see that got a nice thick consistency to it now. So we're going to take this right over the top. And there you have it. Pork, beef, veal, meatloaf with a nice gravy over mashed potatoes. I hope you enjoyed this video. This one's a little different than ones we've done before because it was a multi-step, a little longer process. I know a lot of times we do shorter ones, so I hope you enjoy this. And like I said, any suggestions, any comments, please let us know. And we'll see you next time.